that the camera has a prejudiced point of view. The camera does not see things as they are. It sees things as it is constructed to see them. The camera has been bewitched, and the lens is made the way it is made in order to conform with a certain philosophy of how things are supposed to look. For example, if you show a so-called primitive person a photograph of himself or of a friend, he will not recognize it. He will turn the picture over and look at the back and wonder what happened to the back of the person's head. He will not understand why it's flat. He will not understand perspective. Why are the things, the trees in the distance, smaller? They're all the same size. When an American GI in Paris during the war, or just after the war, met Picasso, they got into a discussion about modern painting and Picasso's painting, and this GI said he simply couldn't make head or tail of it. He said, the world doesn't look like that. Women don't look like that. Picasso said, do you have a girlfriend? And he said, yes. Well, he said, let me see her picture. And he pulled out his wallet, and he had a little photograph in the things and showed the picture. And Picasso stared at it and said, is she so small as that? So you see, it's a very instructive exercise to look really carefully at the surrounding world and not jump to conclusions about the colors of things. You see, a person might walk into this room and be asked, what color is it? And he would jump to the conclusion, oh, it's a sort of off-white. Now, it's nothing of the kind. Watch this wall carefully, and you will see that it's myriads of colors. Pearly, grays, golds, blues, purples, all kinds of shadows play along it. But these shadows are not gray things, they're all colored. And luminous. So just to say it's off-white color is to have an idea in one's head and not to be using one's eyes at all. And to have an idea in one's head and not to be using your eyes is in a way to be a victim of Maya. But then you see art and Maya have a kind of a curious relationship. Because one is not merely a victim of Maya. There's good Maya and bad Maya, as it were. There's a way of creating a world. And in this sense, an artist or a poet is a great creator. The word poet, from the Greek poiesis, means to make or to do. The poets then are those who give us an imagination, that is the power of building images, and so also painters teach us to see things that we never saw before. They evoke them. They see creatively, because we can see this Rorschach blot of the universe in many different ways, just as the ordinary Rorschach blot is seen in different ways by different people. And if I can convince you to see this Rorschach blot my way, I've not necessarily pulled the wool over your eyes, but I have given you a new possibility of imagination. So when there's a place in a national park called Inspiration Point, and everybody goes there and they say, well, ain't it just like a picture? That is because they have seen the kind of landscapes that are reproduced on the tops of candy boxes and so on, and they know that this is supposed to be beautiful. Now, ask the question of what is a landscape itself a picture? Are the clouds like anything? Do they reproduce something? Do the trees mean something? Are they symbols? Are they figures? Are they about something? No. So when an artist paints the landscape in a kind of chocolate box style, he's actually painting a painting of an abstraction, of a non-objective dance, which is the tree or the cloud, see, or the foam on the waves. It's just become a little corny, that's all. It's been done so often. So instead, painters thought, let's not do that. Let's, instead of copying the dances that nature is doing, let's just make dances directly on the canvas. And so Jackson Pollock, and everybody starts sort of leaping around all over the place doing different things. But then, in a few years to come, people walk down the street and there is an old board, which has been splattered, and they'll say, oh, ain't it just like a Pollock? See, ain't it just like a picture? Because they'll have been taught to see the marvel of these particular colors and forms. So again, some artist has done Maya. And so made a new universe to see. Now, however, here comes the interesting point. Is it all a projection, Maya? That's to say, look, when we look at someone is tested on a Rorschach blot, we assume that the story he tells about it is a projection. That is to say, it is only in his mind. And because it's only in his mind, the story he tells you about the Rorschach blot is symptomatic of his particular psychological condition. Are we then going to say that the external world has no order and no sense in it intrinsically, but that is something purely projected into it by human beings? And since human beings might differ from each other, as, say, one artist differs from another, or as one might have different kinds of brains, or different sense organs, does that mean that according to the differentiations in the individual, the external world is changed? Well, let's say this. When the astronomers use their telescopes, and they discover that the stars are not angels, or they're not lights being carried in crystal spheres, but they discover these galaxies. When they discovered the galaxies, did they invent them? Were there galaxies there before anybody looked at them through telescopes? That's the same question as, when there is a noise, is it noisy if there's not anybody around to hear it? And of course, from a physical point of view, that old problem about the tree falling in the forest with no one to hear it is very simple. It's a problem of relativity. In other words, that the vibrations in air do not become noise until they hit an eardrum. Just as light going through space is not manifested as light until it falls upon a reflecting object. Just as a thing is not moving unless it can be shown to be moving in relation to something comparably still. So you see, in a way, there are no galaxies until there arises a situation responsive to them. Nothing exists by itself, but only in relation to other things. This is a rough point. But remember this, though. This isn't pure projection. Because the ability of the human being to have these sensory responses, to hear sounds, to see lights, and to know about galaxies and stars, the ability, the brain which makes that possible, is in itself a member of the external world. The brain is a member of the same world it's looking at. It has something in common with the universe that surrounds it. You see, that was the thing that in the beginning we screened out. Nobody realizes that he's in the external world. Everybody else is, but I'm in the internal world. Oh no, I'm not. I'm just as much in the external world as you, and my consciousness, my thoughts, my so on, can be regarded as something in the external world. So I go with it, you see. The external world, as I pointed out at the beginning, does me. Therefore, there are correspondences, there are transactions, there are relations between what I call me and everything else in the external world. Only I'm under the illusion that we don't go together. I've forgotten that I create the galaxies in the same moment that I've forgotten that the galaxies create me. It's mutual. Like two sides of a coin, they go together. You can't separate them. Otherwise you have no coin. So then in sum, let's go back. These are the principal meanings of Maya. Measurement through cutting. Play. Magic. Drama. And creative art. All fundamentally resting on the idea that the universe is not finally serious. And so the man who has penetrated Maya is a man who doesn't take life quite seriously. You see?